Hello everybody, time for another review video. Today I will discuss a watch and a knife because I think pairing is fun. I discuss the Orient Star Standard Date, that's this watch, and the CRKT Swindle by Ken Onion, and I will explain to you also why I combine them. A bit of background first. Well, one of my previous videos I discussed the Orient Bambino, which is a lovely low budget dressed watch. So I'm not going to tell you the complete history of Orient again, that's in that video. Here I just wanted to draw attention that the watch that we discuss now is in fact from the Orient Star division, which is the higher quality division of Orient. But Orient being still very much a value for money brand, it is still very reasonably priced for what you get, certainly compared to what you would get out of Switzerland. And you can see here the Orient Star mentioned and the logo, you can see it here at the top. Something I forgot to say in my previous video is that Seiko, well, the enormous Seiko Japanese manufacturer of watches, has in fact bought in 2001 the Orient company. It seems that they are still quite independent in operation. They continue to make somewhat funky special watches, quite different from what Seiko does with their own movements in fact. So they are indeed under the umbrella of Seiko, but they do their own thing. A brand that's not so evident to find in the West, certainly not the more luxurious Orient Star ones, but I think as you will see during this video, it's really worth discovering. So, yeah, my iPad is a bit slow since upgrading to iOS 8, so that's sorry if it lags a bit. Just wanted to show you next to this one, so it's called Model Standard Date in English. The official abbreviation is DVO 2003W, but there are two other variants. There is one with a very beautiful carbon fiber dial that you have to see in reality, and then one with golden accents. Some specifications. Well, as all Orients, this uses their own mechanical caliber. It's an automatic watch with an Orient caliber, but it's of a higher grade than the one that was used in the very affordable Bambino. Now, no mistake, this is still a pretty affordable watch. So it's automatic, 22 jewels, not that that matters so much. It has the frequency of 20,600 beats per hour, so 6 beats per second, and you can see, in fact, if you follow the second hand, that it's slightly less smooth than a 28,000 beats per second watch like many Swiss watches have. On the other hand, probably because it's a lower beat, statistically speaking, it may need less caution and less pampering for servicing. It's probably, statistically speaking, lower beat is a bit more robust. Also, statistically speaking, higher beat would be more accurate. Now, in practice, all Orients, and definitely the Orient Stars, are very good out of the box. It's as good as any reasonably priced Swiss brand, like take a Longines or a Tissot, which are already more expensive than this. Automatic ones will not be more accurate than an Orient out of the box. It's just a few seconds per day. It's a pretty traditional classic watch. You could say a timeless style watch. There is a date here. You have the markers are really not printed. It's really little pieces of metal. They are a bit trapezium in shape, you could say. Also particular for this model is the stamped dial that has these vertical grooves. I come back to that because of this it looks quite a bit like a very famous Swiss watch, but it's definitely not an homage, it's its own thing. Now, what is also remarkable, well, first of all, a bit more about the movement that you see. And it has a display back, so you can see with some reasonable finish, but this is not a very sexy movement like some pimped out movements are with colored screws everywhere. But you see there the balance wheel shaking. and it's higher in grade than the simple Bambino, because if you pull out the crown to set a time, the second stop, which in fact most Swiss watches have, but the affordable Japanese ones will not typically not stop. Will not stop the second hand, which is not a really big deal, but for a nice time setting, so I push it back in, it's better. Remarkable about this one is that here, well, I'm sitting straight under a lamp, but the glass itself, the crystal sapphire, proper sapphire crystal, has in fact very good anti-reflection coating at the two sides of the glass, and that is why in fact for most angles, except here, now you see a bit of the shine in the glass, but in most angles it is as if there is no glass on it. That's how well the anti-reflection works. So all the reflections that you see mainly are from the dial and the little metal pieces in normal use. Yeah. It's water resistance to 5 bar, so well, if you swim with it, it might survive, but I would say 5 bar is 50 meters, but it's not really swimming like 50 meters underwater. It's a different kind of static test with with pressure. So I would say it means that if you walk around, wash your hands and so on, it will be perfectly fine, but I wouldn't swim with it. It's a 40 millimeter watch, which for many people is quite a nice universal size. So while it is indeed a very neutral watch, it's a bit bigger than many traditional older watches with this kind of very traditional style, which often can be like 3-4 millimeters smaller and a bit too small to my taste, in fact. The thickness is 11.6 millimeter. So I will put it on and then we talk a bit more. So you can see, sorry about that. So you can see that on the wrist, my wrist is a good 7 inches, and on the wrist it's really quite good. Very nice watch for general use, for business and so on. Notice that the bezel is nicely polished, and in general the case, Orient did a really good job here. It's really at a higher level than their entry-level Orient brand. The Orient Star is really nice, so you have really differentiating between brushed and polished. So you have, while it's all metal, you see some variation. So also the bracelet, which is really a decent bracelet for solid links, not folded links which are cheap and rattle, but you see there is brushed at the sides, and then you see here that the thin ones are polished. So it's really quite good. Also here at the case, this side here, which is, you could say, diagonally at the top, is polished, and the real side is brushed. So really quite a nice finish. What else do we have here? It is signed, the crown, with the S from Star. I assume that's what it is. And then here the clasp is really quite good. It's nice solid metal. Often watches in the affordable segment have stamped metal clasps. This one is really proper with side pushers. So, well, it's a normal stainless steel. It's not extra hardened like most watches. This means indeed, you see, when you wear it, you will get slight scratches from touching your desk and so on. That's something you cannot avoid. The style of the watch, the nicely universal style, works in fact also good with bracelets. With leather straps. Well, I take here the Bambino and I fold it a bit, so you can imagine. I would, well, probably with a somewhat lighter kind of leather, that it's very nice to exchange. It's the bracelet for a strap. It's quite doable. You see here you have the pins are here, the spring bars. You can easily take it out. And strange detail, in fact, you see the pins are even. The spring bars are drilled, the lugs are drilled. See the little holes, so you can put a little tool through it to push the spring bar out. That is in fact a more sporty detail that you would not expect for this kind of watch. Usually this kind of somewhat more dressed watch is is totally solid at the side. The end links here, they call this here the end links, this last part of the bracelet, are also nicely solid, making for a really good feel. Notice also here at the clasp you can have some micro adjustment if taking out the pin is just not is a bit too much or a bit too little, then you can still adjust here at the clasp side. I think it's really quite a lovely watch, very lovely. I often wear it when I wear a suit. It's very traditional, well, traditional, timeless, neutral. I like it really a lot. I must say, one thing, what could be better? Well, I think personally that the bracelet, while it's perfectly okay and it's solid, could have been a bit thicker, a bit more solid. But it is really very satisfying. If you are interested to buy this, well, many of my viewers I can see on YouTube, statistically speaking, come from America. So there is an American importer, or I think it's called Orient USA. A bit of googling we will find it. Well, what is definitely important is to also search for coupon codes and promotions, because they often do promotions. So and then this watch can become really surprisingly affordable considering the very high quality. Now I have to say I mentioned here with the stamped dial with those vertical lines of this model, that because of that it resembles a certain other model up to a certain extent. Well, which one? Well, look here. This is the very famous Omega Aquaterra. Well, they come in variants. And indeed, it's because many Aquaterras, maybe all, I'm not certain, have also those vertical grooves in the dial, which indeed, because of that, have this kind of somewhat similar style. But I would say it's really, yeah, that is the only thing, because otherwise both are quite neutral watches. So with bars instead of numbers, that's another element. But then look at the differences. The Omega has more triangular kind of markers, while the Orient is still, well, it's not exactly straight, but it's a bit more trapezium form. Also the date window is different, and look at the beautiful hands there with the arrow. The Orient is simpler, and then you have the numbers around. Here is another Aquaterra with blue hands, and in fact a picture of the movement, which is of course really, well, then again the watch is a lot more expensive, is at a higher level, as a coaxial escapement, and even these days they comes in variants which can handle magnetism extremely well, because they are made of amagnetic materials. So yes, there is some similarity, but I would not say that this is your poor man's Aquaterra. It is the thing on its own, but some people think it's a bit an homage. I don't think so. Also, what I forgot to say so far is there is some luminescence here on the hands, that's painted, and you see the very little dots there at every hour. That's also luminescent. It's not a fantastic luminescence. I mean, your bedroom must be pretty dark for you to notice, but it can help. Now, this kind of more dressed watch, it's not so important that they are not extremely luminous, in my opinion. What was quite fun, I found a picture on a blog where, in fact, the Aquaterra and the Orient were compared, and well, but in fact this kind of thing you cannot compare by simply a checklist. It's like if you would compare a Mercedes with a simple Trabant from Eastern Germany. Well, that's not the exact good comparison, but you would still have a lot of check marks the same. That's what I want to say. Here, of course, the Orient Star is really pretty good in itself, and the Aquaterra is a super high quality watch, but it is quite interesting, just to not to get you ideas that this is a really replacement. Well, with the high quality mechanism of the Omega compared to a pretty standard good workhorse mechanism, as in fact, for example, as a longer power reserve of 60 hours, while the Orient is a more typical 40 hours there. The accuracy is probably better on the Aquaterra, but honestly, the Orient Star, honestly, 3-4 seconds a day is perfect. Out of the box, without going to a watchmaker. And you look at the price difference. Oops, what happened there? So look at the price difference, it's enormous. Well, and this price is not the real street price, by the way, absolutely not. I come to that soon. So, well, in short, I love this watch. It's a very good universal watch. It's very different from the other Orient here that I already discussed, which is a more old-fashioned style, 1950 style watch. I will discuss other Orients in the future. You will see that I've got a few more. Now let's go to the knife. So I thought, well, when I started my new series of videos after my, you could say, YouTube holiday, I thought, well, the combination is interesting. In this case, so this is clearly a modern watch for general use, but it can be quite, the rest is quite technical, modern, elegant. It's a subtle sophistication, I would call it. There's no real bling. It's well designed in a subtle way. So that is why, in fact, we come to this knife that I will open in a second. I wanted to first talk a bit about the designer. This is not a generic knife. This is designed by Ken Onion, a famous knife designer that those who are subscribed to my channel mainly because of knives will know him. He makes fabulous custom handmade designs, and he got quite a reputation by making a number of designs for Kershaw and in more recent years for the brand CRKT, which is also, and that's also a point of commonality, offers a really good quality at a good value, and you could say that's the same as with the watch. He made already a number of pretty interesting knives, in fact, for CRKT with very interesting structures. The Ripple, which I have previously discussed, and there's a smaller Eros, the gentlemanly knife, always quite high-tech and sophisticated in style. So a few details, and finally I will open it. So it has a flipper, so but it's very elegant, in fact, in a way. It's not, I don't think it's like a weapon. Some practicalities, well, the total length you see there is 19 centimeter, blade 8 centimeter, the weight a good 90 grams, the thickness of the blade 3 millimeter, and it's rounded at the top. That's quite nice. It gives already a bit that luxury feeling. What is the steel? Well, 8CR14. This is in fact the same steel that the Spider Cotinesius uses. A very good mid-range shiny steel, very well for this kind of use. This is not a heavy-duty knife, but a more gentleman knife, perfectly sufficient. The handle is also from stainless steel. A number that I don't know is probably, you wouldn't make a knife blade with that. Maybe a spoon or so, or a knife handle, and nicely with a satin finish. I already, before we show it in a bit more detail, wanted to show you this. There is a slightly more expensive variant with a grooved handle, which I personally find this handle nicer, but that one has a somewhat better steel, still mid-range, but on a perceived as a higher grade, is the Swedish Sandvik 12C27 steel, quite popular with European knives. Personally, I would have preferred this handle with the Sandvik steel. That would have been the best combination. Bon, so I really think this is very beautiful. It's a frame lock. It opens very smoothly. Look at the clip. It's a very elegant kind of clip, and indeed when you have it in your pocket or even in your breast pocket, it doesn't really look like a knife there. It's more elegant. It's almost like kind of a designer pen that you have clipped on, and the shape is quite unique also, in my opinion. Yeah, it goes very smoothly when you use the flipper. Because of the flipper, your hand will normally not slip on the blade unless you're extremely clumsy. You see here the name of the designer, Ken Onion, Swindle. This one is a first production knife, not that that matters so much. It is screwed together, so if you need to repair it you can open it, but I don't think that would quickly happen. But I mean, because of the style here, the clip is very different from traditional knives where the clip is at one of the two sides. It's only at this side, you cannot at the back, you cannot change it. Look here at the little grooves on the blade which hold your finger. Well, the blade is kind of a worn clip but still with a bit of upsweep near the tip, and a very fine tip for precision work. So I think it's absolutely not designed or perceived as a weapon. It's a small utility blade. Of course it can still be dangerous in foolish hands, but I like it, and I find really that it fits very well together as a companion knife for this elegant, understated watch, which offers a lot of quality for the price. Similar with CRKT, a brand that offers products from famous designers, but by making it in far away, in this case in China, they can offer, and with mid-range steel, they can offer a very nice product at a very reasonable price. The only other brand that I see doing this at the same scale is Böker, the German Böker, whose Böker Plus series has a very different approach. So good designers, production versions of customs designs made in far away for a very good quality price. Now this, on the other hand, I mean, this is not an outsourced watch. This is a true made in Japan watch with all the quality implications that you expect. In a way, Orient is a bit like a Toyota. I mean, it's maybe not the most imaginative brands. However, in Japan they have very funky designs, but very high quality, no nonsense, good attention to detail. And I think a watch that everybody is really, well, it's a male watch, but everybody could wear with pride and enjoy it. I really recommend this combination. Swindle and the beautifully finished Orient Star with a very good anti-reflective coating on the crystal. So I hope you found this an interesting overview video. Please leave feedback. I have a number more of this kind of pairing videos in my mind, so from time to time, and I cannot do it regularly because some people ask me make more videos, but you know, I usually try to do a bit of research before I make a video, and I want to see, because I want to do it right. So that's why I cannot promise to do it every week, but there will be more coming, several more in fact, that I have in mind, of high value watches, mainly mechanical watches, and interesting companion knives to pair them with. Good, enjoy, and as I said, please leave feedback. Thank you.